Hi everyone, this is DKeys bringing you some quick updates for the scepter-hammer Elementalist following the January 2015 balance patch. Not a lot really changed for Scepter Elementalist during this patch. The Might nerf changed gear just a little bit, and the buff to Shatterstone and Water Attunement means that you should use Shatterstone when it's off cooldown if you happen to be stuck in Water Attunement without any conjures to use. To recap the builds that a scepter-hammer Elementalist should be using, the first build that will be most general use is 66200 with a scepter focus setup, taking Conjurer, which is Fire 2, Internal Fire, which is Fire 6, and Persisting Flames, which is Fire 11. In Air, take Bolt to the Heart, which is Air 6, Arcane Lightning, which is Air 7, and Air Training, which is Air 10. And finally, in Earth, take Stone Splinters, which is Earth 6. The rotations for Scepter Hammer with Conjurer are unchanged, but listed here for reference. Scepter Focus has slightly higher might stacking capabilities, but Scepter Dagger has slightly higher DPS. If you are in a slightly more organized group and expect battles to take less than 30 or 45 seconds, you can instead use a Scepter Dagger setup and swap out Conjurer for Burning Precision, or use Internal Fire in this Adept slot and use any of Fire's Adept or Master level major traits for the second slot. Without Conjurer, the combinations for Scepter Dagger with Lightning Hammer are a little bit easier to pull off, though Scepter Focus with Hammer is very similar. If the second Elementalist in a group, you have several options besides using a staff and going with a Fire staff build. One option that will boost your DPS a little bit without requiring you to change your rotation at all is going with a 5-5-2-2-0 setup. Again, you'll want Conjurer if using Scepter Focus, or you can use any of Fire's Adept or Master level major traits if using Scepter Dagger for faster battles. And finally, if you have a lot of trust in your group, you could go with a 0-4-5-5-0 setup if you are the second Elementalist. Elementalists are so great at stacking Fury that there should be at least one in the group that has Persisting Flames for that Fury uptime. If using the 0-4-5-5-0 build, take Air 6 Bolt to the Heart and Air 7 Arcane Lightning, Earth 6 Stone Splinters, and Earth 4 Serrated Stones, and finally Water 6 Vital Striking, and Water 4 Piercing Shards. Note that this rotation is very different and won't last more than 30 seconds or so in a battle, and after that 30-second window, your DPS will tank because you won't have any lightning hammers to use. A water camping combination leverages the many multipliers of the 0-4-5-5-0 and 6-6-0-2-0 builds for some very big numbers. For gear for a Scepter Hammer Elementalist, I would recommend full Berserker's weapons, armor, and trinkets with superior runes of the Scholar if running for speed and if there are two Elementalists in the group, or if you just want one armor set for all of your Elementalist builds. For weapons, I would recommend a superior Sigil of Night and a Sigil of Force on your primary set, and Sigil of Force and Slaying Sigils for your daytime set, or Force and Frailty for your daytime set. Note if you are looking to expand your collection of Slaying Sigils and you prefer Scepter Focus, put these Slaying Sigils on exotic focuses so that you don't impact the DPS of your rotation as much. For more difficult fights, I'd recommend having a weapon with a Sigil of Energy. And for those situations where you're trying to stack might in a less than organized group, Instead of using a Sigil of Battle, since that was also nerfed a little bit, I would recommend a Sigil of Strength, though neither of them are really good options for a Scepter Elementalist. For your underwater weapon, make sure you keep a stacking sigil on it if you ever choose to stack. But remember, if you don't kill 15 or so enemies quickly in the dungeon, it won't work out to be worth it over a force sigil. If using a setup where you don't have the luxury of taking Signet of Fire, I would recommend mixing in just a tiny bit of precision, either by using one weapons piece that's Assassin's, or a few precise infusions, or even just changing one trinket from a Berserker's stat to an Assassin's stat. For food for a scepter-hammer elementalist, if you're comfortable with moving around while performing your rotations, I would recommend seaweed salad, asparagus and sage salad, or experimental remnants. Note that if you're using frostbow while using this food, you won't see the complete benefit from this food, but for most of a scepter-hammer's elementalist rotation, you're able to move freely and benefit from the 8 or 10% damage modifier. If you're not comfortable moving around while performing your rotation, I would recommend sweet and spicy butternut squash soup to be optimal, though truffle steak is slightly more cost effective at the moment. If fighting a difficult boss, you can use slices of candied dragon roll or another lifesteal food. Or if fighting a large number of easy to defeat mobs, you can use dragon's breath buns or other food that gives you power on kill. For utility consumables, I would always recommend slaying potions whenever possible, and if you're in a dungeon where a particular slaying potion just doesn't fit, I would recommend either Scale Venom for the additional vulnerability, if that will benefit your group, or Toxic or Bountiful Sharpening Stones for the power. These ended up being slightly more beneficial than the new Furious Sharpening Stones and Maintenance Oils that were just released. And of course, since Lightning Hammer grants so much precision initially, Maintenance Oils usually aren't useful at all. The slot skills for a Scepter-Hammer build are usually Arcane Brilliance, either Signet of Fire, or some other utility that your party would like you to carry, Arcane Wave for another blast finisher to go with Arcane Brilliance, and of course Conjure Lightning Hammer, which will be the weapon that you use for most of your rotation, even if it's not the burstiest part of your rotation. If not using Signet of Fire, you're likely using either Conjure Frostbow for the 5-second disable the DPS from the AoE, as well as the melee DPS that it can quickly provide before you drop it, or for Glyph of Storms, which when cast in Air Attunement can be a very quick way to stack a lot of vulnerability on a boss, or when cast in Earth can blind more mobs to supplement the blinds that you already have with your Conjure Lightning Hammer. Conjure Fiery Greatsword is not a very useful DPS tool anymore, though it can be used against bosses with large hitboxes. But otherwise, I would recommend Glyph of Elementals for its DPS elementals in air or earth or fire, or the tank in earth. And that's a quick recap of the Scepter-Hammer Elementalist. Thanks for watching.